Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you listen to this. And I'm going to be starting it off talking about the Galaxy Z Flip. What is this Galaxy Z Flip? Look, we was talking about the folding phone that Samsung was about to put out there. And Samsung was going to put out a folding phone that could very well beat Motorola in the Motorola Razr flip phone. And what is awesome about this is basically, we know last year Samsung came out with the Galaxy Fold, and even though it had a lot of excitement, that excitement wore off pretty quick, especially because it had some issues with the screen. You know, it was very fragile, and it didn't help that, you know, when they first put it out there for reviewers looked into it and tore it apart because of the simple fact that the screen was coming apart, dust got in the middle of it, and it just wasn't working out the way Samsung had hoped. And as a result, they not obviously sell the number of units they had hoped for. The price point didn't help at all as well. And that indeed kind of put them in a situation where, even though this was a phone that was very forward thinking, it didn't get kind of the results that they may have wanted as far as sales. But people were still kind of excited about the future that was ahead of us. And we couldn't wait to kind of see what Samsung would do with the second version of it. Because we felt that, look, the first the first folding phone, we knew it was going to have issues. We knew that the only way you could really see the issue that would come from it is to put it out there, to put it on the market, and allow people to really put it to the paces and point out the real flaws that was in this device. And unfortunately, you know, for Samsung, even though they know that it's something that had to take place, it did result in them having a lot of units that didn't get sold. And I think forever will be one of the things that will be like just inventory that they are not going to be able to get rid of unless they sell at a price that is just way low where people may pick it up out of curiosity. And even then, you know, with people knowing how fragile it is, it may be something that is not going to ever make it to a point where they can make a profit on that. But I think they was able to do enough as far as getting enough excitement and hype on a device where it can warrant a second device to get people at least pointing in the direction of wanting to maybe pick it up. And with the Galaxy Z Flip, it being technically the second version of the Galaxy Fold, they can very well get people jumping on board. And this is why. Now the specs, let's keep it real. It's not going to be the best specs out there. In fact, you could actually compare this to be more of a mid-tier phone spec if you look at what they got, because you're looking at a 6.7-inch 1080p display, a Snapdragon 855, which if you look at the Snapdragon 855, that's kind of like, it'll be almost 2 years old. You know, last year the 855 Plus was a big deal, and then the year before was the 855. So these, as far as processors, are not going to be top of the line. Now, as far as it being a processor that can handle a day-to-day tasks, it's going to be fine. You know, the 855 is going to handle your stuff just fine. I don't think you're going to feel where you really need something better than 855 if you're just using it for just your normal usage. You know, you're not trying to play games on it. So for this device, I think the 855 will be okay. And as far as cameras, you're looking at two 12-megapixel rear cameras, one front-facing or one 10-megapixel front-facing camera. It's going to have a 3200 milliamp hour battery, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. Obviously, it'll be a 4G device, won't be 5G. And it's going to be around $900. Now, given the price at $900, now even though it's going to be a mid-tier phone, I think this is going to be a phone more people are going to be willing to adopt. And I think this is going to be really good for Samsung because they're going to be able to have more people willing to pick this up. And I think they're going to be able to sell this. And the reason why I think they're going to be able to sell it is because, one, people are excited about the folding phones and just the whole idea of it. You know, one of the things that people say is that these phones are getting bigger, make it harder to put in their pocket. They would like a smaller phone, but we want a smaller phone, mainly for the footprint, but we don't want the smaller screen. You know, and this, I think, will fit perfectly for those that want both worlds. You want that big screen because the reality is, man, we got so used to having larger screens that we can't really just see ourselves going back to that. I say that because, man, you know, I look at my phones that I have. I have my a Pixel 4 XL that I use as my daily driver. I use my Pixel phone as my work phone, and I don't really use it mainly for scrolling much, but I just use it for mainly for text and emails and stuff like that, which I'll explain later on in my work phone segment. But where I've gotten so used to a phone size or a screen size that big, someone actually handed me their iPhone, I think it was a 4S or something like that, or iPhone SE, that's what it was. And so I was sitting there like, man, how can you see on this screen? Now, keep in mind, that was the standard size screen for a number of years for the smartphone landscape. But now we've gotten to the point now with resolutions and screen displays that we got so used to the larger displays that if you go back to the smaller displays, it feels like how could we really ever go back to that? And I think we are so far ahead that we can't go back. But one of the things I will say about the iPhone, particularly that iPhone SE, is it's more manageable. You can even throw your pocket with your wallet and stuff like that. And it feels better as far as, being able to haul it around versus something like a larger phone. And with the folding phone, with the Z Flip, with it being able to basically flip down to again, a flip phone, it's going to really pick up a number of people, in this market. And yeah, I'm actually feeling like this is something that is a phone that is very well could sell and get the numbers that Samsung was maybe hoping out of the last year's folding phone. And I think when paired up against the Razr, I feel this will outsell the Razr. Even though Motorola at first got the fire started, this again points like a couple weeks ago I brought up is the failure of Motorola and Verizon getting this out on time. Because where they had the opportunity to maybe get those numbers and get those excitement, I think they're going to find themselves really looking up at Samsung yet again. And because of this, and this one reason, and this is what's killing Motorola, and this one right here is the exclusivity of this being the Verizon. Look, we are beyond a point where Verizon is the only dog in this fight now. There was a period where Verizon just had so many numbers, they basically commanded the market. We're not there anymore. The numbers, as far as the people in Verizon, are diminishing, maybe not as fast as people may have to say it is, but they are over the years. More people are going to a place like Verizon, more a place like T-Mobile, maybe AT&T, or even some of these smaller non-contract carriers. Why? Because they feel like I can still do the same old stuff that I was doing on Verizon on some of these other carriers. The people who are sticking to this place like Verizon are those who say, look, I need this for work. It got to work. I'm always traveling, and I got to make sure this works, especially if you're someone who's on the road, like a truck driver or someone who's always commuting. You want something that works, and you want something with the towers. And if you're somewhere in the neck of the woods where T-Mobile just not going to get out there, AT&T is not going to get out there, this is where Verizon shines because, you're not going to maybe get LTE, but you at least get one bar of signal where if something happened and you got to make a phone call, you're going to be able to make a phone call versus some of these other areas. And this is where, then that was important. But now, with a lot more people not really living in there, the majority of population living in places where they're going to always be able to get a signal. They're going to always, I don't say always, but be able to see a telephone pole or see whatever. They are able to get away from places like Verizon and go with a smaller carrier or go with a non-contract carrier. And this is working out for the betterment of competition. And this is where I feel where the Razr is going to fall short, is that because it's only exclusive to Verizon, you're not going to get enough people that's going to pick up that phone because of the price. But Samsung, it being potentially available for more carriers, possibly even including Verizon, look at that. You're going to have people who are going to have a choice and they're going to be able to pick that up. Now, do I see this being in a Verizon store? I highly doubt it because I don't think they're going to want to put that up against their Razr, being the Razr is their phone and they're going to want to see it sell. But it's going to be more likely to be an unlocked phone where someone can go in there and get a Verizon 7 card and put it in there. At least that's what I'm looking at it for now. Now, I could very well be wrong. And That would be remain to be seen. But I just don't see where Verizon is going to want to have this there, or I don't see where this phone, as far as the Razr, it's going to be able to get the numbers that this Galaxy Z, the Z Flip is going to get those numbers. It's going to get that excitement. Now, how many people are going to be wanting to pick this up? We'll see, but I'm really interested in that, and I think it's going to be a big deal. Now, one of the questions I have for myself, because when you look at these specs, 6.7 inch the 1080p display, Snapdragon 855, 6 gigabytes of RAM, 3300 milliamp hour battery, with the exception of the 256 native display, you put this up against the Pixel 4. Then you look at the specs there, and a price that they would ask for the Pixel 4 was pretty close to the same. One would be asking, why am I letting this slide? It was all over Google in the Pixel 4 for them pricing their phone with similar specs. And here's my answer. I think it's clear on this one. When you look at this phone, I see it as the Galaxy Z Flip is definitely trying to do something different. It's bringing something different to the table. Obviously, the folding display, the folding phone, something that is new in technology. And we know when you come out to the market with a technology like that, it's going to be expensive. It's why the Razr, even though it have less specs, is projected to be maybe twice as much as that. It's why last year's Galaxy Fold was around $2,000 to start. Because when you come out with some technology that's new, it just costs money. And the reality I think Samsung realized is that people are not wanting to spend that type of money, at least for that. People are not. And that was pretty much the criticism. A lot of people said, hey, look, it's a nice phone, it's a nice idea, but it's too much money to jump on this, especially when it's still in its early stages. It's going to have its issues, and it still haven't gotten to the point where it needs to be. So if you're Samsung and you want to get this phone into more hands, how can you do that? Well, you got to put it at a price that people are going to be willing to pay for it. And $900 is probably at that price point that I feel people are going to be willing to jump on board at. So if you're going to take this technology and you're going to fit it into a $900 price point, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And I get it. I get why they say, okay, we're going to drop the RAM a little bit. We're going to use a 2-year-old processor and go from there, because the purpose right here is to get this in more hands and get more people adopting it. And these specs are going to be fine for this device for what it's going to be doing. And yes, I'm going to give them a pass for that, because they are bringing a new technology to the table. And if you look at the internal storage, it's still twice as much as you're going to get on a Pixel 4. So because of that, yes, I'm going to give them a pass on that, because they're bringing that. Now, if 2-3 years down the line, the Galaxy Z Flip is still having, specs that just not up to par, then I'll probably start criticizing Samsung on that and say, look, you need to bring the specs for it. But you're new to the folding market still, or we're still new to the folding market. You want more people to adopt it. In order to do that, you got to bring the price to something that people are going to be more willing to pick up. And that's going to be the way to do that. And I get it.